Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for attending the Lansing Community College Board of Trustees, our regular meeting for February 17th, 2025. Also, I'd just like to say that there are some delicious treats back there, beverages, so be sure to indulge yourself in those. Even though we're having a meeting, you can still indulge yourself with the sweet treats, and there's some other things back there, but I don't know what it is. Ms. Duncan, could you call the roll, please?
Terry Frazier,
Here.
Noel Garcia, Hope Lavelle, Angela Matthews.
Here.
Robert Proctor.
Here.
Chatham Taylor,
Here.
LaShonda Thomas.
Before we move on, Trustee Garcia and Trustee Thomas sends their regards that they weren't able to be here tonight, but they are watching. Okay. Trustee Proctor, pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on with our agenda, it was February 13, 2023, that 3 students from MSU's life was tragically taken, and we stood in solidarity with MSU as we do right now. And also with our Star family, there have been some losses with persons in our LCC Star family. And then there are those that are going through a myriad of situations, personally and or professionally. So if you don't mind, if we could take a moment of silence for that family and friends of those students, and then also for our Star family members that are going through certain situations. Thank you. Moving on to a very beautiful presentation that will happen this evening. And I'd like to tell you about, as we celebrate this month, Black History Month, about a young lady named Rosa Vines. And Rosa Vine is a retired Marine. When she graduated from high school, her stepfather told her that women should not be Marines. So she decided to become one and ultimately outranked him. Her husband, an Army veteran, died while serving in Afghanistan in 2009. She is now a widow, a mother of 4, and a grandmother of 4. Rosa is a first-generation student who began attending LCC at the age of 48 and is now completing her 2nd year in the nursing program. She attributes much of her success and sense of belonging to LCC to the Office of Empowerment. The loving, family-oriented environment she experienced there helped her navigate a difficult period following the passing of her sister. In the fall, Rosa will transfer to Davenport's nursing program and has been accepted to the University of Michigan Medical School, where she plans to begin in February of 2027. She's studying to become a cardiothoracic and vascular surgeon. In addition to her studies, Rosa is also an accomplished poet. And for the honor of this month, Rosa is going to give us a little bit of her poetry this evening. So if you would pay attention, that would be absolutely great. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to speak with everyone this evening a little bit about some of the greatest people in the history in their respective fields. Let's see if you can guess any of their names before I say it. Greatest musical artist? Prince. Greatest pop artist? Michael Jackson. Rock and roll? Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, Lenny Kravitz. Hip hop artist? Tupac Shakur, DMX, Biggie Smalls. Reggae artist? Bob Marley. Queen of Gospel? Close. Mahalia Jackson. Queen of Soul. Aretha. Top three poets known around the world. Mr. Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, and Nikki Giovanni. Top athlete. Soccer. Pele. Boxer. Muhammad Ali. Golfer. Tiger Woods. Basketball player. I figured everybody would have known that. Michael Jordan. Tennis. Venus and Serena Williams. Olympic sprinter. Usain Bolt. How about medical advancements? Surgical robot was invented by Burton Nahum. Cardiovascular surgeons, Ben Carson, Charles Drew, Daniel Williams. Presidents of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and the United States' own Barack Obama. How about education as far as first ladies? Most educated first lady is Dr. Michelle Obama. Military, General Colin Powell. Astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Philosophers, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., KRS-One, Malcolm X, and last but definitely not least, 2025 LCC Board Chair, Trustee Angela Matthews. The next greatest person is you. It is me. It is anyone and everyone who believes in standing on the principles that force us to believe that a change needs to start and that change starts within ourselves. In order to affect the future and maybe even our history, we need to stop thinking that others are superior to us and start discovering the superiority within ourselves as a people, as a community, and as a country. Black history is not only Black history, it is American history. Next, I'm going to do a poem that I wrote. Today, I am going to be myself, the one whose hair defies gravity, whose skin is bold like sunlight. Today, I am going to wear my crown, and you will see it through my actions. I don't need physical attributes to show you what dwells within me. And I'll bow my head to your being in reverence. And as I lower my head, look closely, for I am whatever I say that I am. So when you see me, please ask me how I would like to be addressed, because your labels hold very little weight. I don't have to answer to what you call me. I only have to answer to what I believe that I am. My mother named me. My father loved me. My family supported, instructed, and guided me, and this community edifies me. And I shared that wealth with our babies as a mother and, first of all, teacher. I am aware that the title crown was never about the size, but always about the depth I was willing to go into with a shared mind. So watch me be, and then watch me spread the word about what we are, whose we are, and what we can become, and then watch our nation follow. Finally, I'm going to do a poem by the great Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like stars with the certainty of the tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want me to be broken, bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, and you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? But out of the huts and of history's shame, I rise, up from the past that is rooted in pain. I am a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
So Dr. Dan, I saw, as Rosa was coming in, that you were, also walking with her. Would you like to have a couple of words? You don't have to. I just thought it would be appropriate.
No, I had to walk her in because I felt honored standing next to her. It's just amazing I got a chance to get to really know her. And we learned so much from each other. I'm humbled this week by your heart, by just your love for people, and especially when you hear her story. It's unbelievable. I don't know I could quote to as well as she did. So we love you and we're proud of you. Thank you.
And this is what LCC does every single day. So thank you, Rosa, for being with us, and thank you for your words. So moving on next to item number 4, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the January 27, 2025 regular Board of Trustees meeting?
I move.
Thank you, Vice Chair Frazier. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Lavelle. It has been moved by Vice Chair Frazier and second by Trustee Lavelle that we approve the January 27, 2025 regular Board meeting of trustees. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan, would you call the roll?
Chatham Taylor,
Here. Yes.
it's okay. Say aye or
Aye.
Noel Garcia, Terry Frazier,
Aye.
Robert Proctor,
Aye.
Angela Matthews.
Aye.
LaShonda Thomas, Hope Lavelle,
Aye.
motion carried.
Next, we're moving on to additions and deletions to the agenda. This is excluding the consent agenda, only additions or deletions to the agenda. Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, limited public comment regarding agenda items only. Limited public comment regarding agenda items only. You will have 3 minutes to address the podium and a board. Are there any persons that are signed up, Ms. Duncan?
No one signed up, Madam Chair.
Patrick? Seeing none and hearing none, we move on now to the president's report. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you, Chair Matthews. Good evening, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for braving the cold to be here. And since I've been informed that both Trustee Garcia and Trustee Thomas are watching, hello, we're thinking of you. I always like to start by highlighting the written president's report. You can see there's a lot of basketball and a lot of winning going on this month. Couple of quick things about the written report, trustees. On page 8, you'll see a photo commemorating our attendance at the MLK luncheon downtown Lansing. On page 23, there's a great spread on the swearing in of our new trustees. And on the inside cover, there is a still photo from upcoming LCC theater production Crime and Punishment, which is taking place in the Black Box Theater. It opens on the 21st and runs through the 1st. Archive PDF is online for you to see. And thanks to all the teammates who contribute the information of the written president's report. A few things from my oral report, Chair Matthews. I do want to start by thanking Ms. Rosa Vines for commemorating Black History Month. I also want to thank you for those readings and for your service. Thank you very much. We have a number of engaging activities here at LCC to commemorate and celebrate Black History Month, along with the festivities this evening. For many years, LCC has embraced what we call a Culture 365 strategy for Heritage and Awareness Months. And I want to especially thank Dr. Dan and her colleagues in the Office of Empowerment for curating a lot of very important events. Then they're listed on our website, including Malcolm X Symposium tomorrow, Sisterhood of Excellence on Wednesday. We have an upcoming HBCU experience event on February 26th, and Chair Matthews will be delivering the welcome there. Our own Tanya McLean, who's the director of the MLK Junior Equity Center, will be delivering a talk on the 28th. There's even more events on the web. So thank you so much for commemorating Black History Month. Often when organizations commemorate Black History Month, they look at their own history. And so on the next slide, Patrick, our first African-American trustee elected here at LCC was Ms. Shirley Rogers, who was elected in 1981, and she served until 1993. And that is a big first, a long set of board service. You fast forward to 2025, if you could advance the slide. Now, LCC has 6 African-American trustees elected to our board. And our board chair, Angela Matthews, has been elected to a second term as chair. And I think this speaks a great deal about how we live Black History Month all year. So I just wanted to commemorate the organizational history that we have for Black history here at LCC. Next trustee is looking forward to the, oh, am I out of order, Patrick? Okay. Can you, yeah, I need slide 5. The numbers on the bottom, I'm sorry. There's one about sabbatical. So I did my own slide deck so I messed up. So this is totally on me. And if you're watching, Lane, that's my bad. I was left to do my own PowerPoint today and I messed it up a little bit. So I do want to talk to you, but at least I injected a little levity into the report, right, Chair Matthews? I do want to talk to particularly the new trustees about sabbatical leave requests. It's the first time for this is an annual process, but Agenda 8F contains my recommendation and the team's recommendation for 6 sabbatical leave requests for LCC faculty members. And because it's the first time for many of you, I wanted to give some background. This process and the requirement for board approval is outlined in the MAHI faculty contract. And the contract defines a sabbatical as advanced study, research, writing, or cognate pursuits that result in the achievement which will contribute to the professional effectiveness of the faculty member and will significantly benefit the college. So if you're new to the topic of sabbaticals, which are pretty specific to higher education and faculty, not common in the private sector, this is not a vacation. It's not time off. You can think of it as research leave. It's quite common in academia. Typically, faculty members at colleges and universities are eligible to apply for sabbatical every 7 years, which is how they got their name, sabbatical. Now, in the MAHI contract, it's every 6 years. And I just wanted to personalize this a little bit. The first 15 years of my career, I was spent as a full-time faculty member. So I actually took 2 sabbaticals. One was to do the field work for my PhD dissertation. The second was to design a certification program for adjunct professors. So I wanted to give that background for new trustees. There are 6 sabbaticals in the packet for your approval, and they come with our recommendation, my recommendation for your approval. So next, sorry to go out of order, Patrick. This would be this slide. Thank you. National Legislative Summit. I do want to talk a bit, trustees, about our visit to NLS and the White House executive orders. Our entire board traveled to Washington, D.C. to the Association of Community College Trustees National Legislative Summit. We had meetings with our federal lobbyist, Ron Hamm, who is well-respected, really outstanding. And we also attended general sessions with ACCT on our legislative priorities. But the heart of that trip is always visits to the Hill. We had productive meetings with lawmakers from both parties, including both of our U.S. senators from Michigan, as well as newly elected Congressman Tom Barrett, who represents our district, and Tim Walberg, who is newly elected as the chair of the House Education and Workforce Committee, which is very important to us in our federal funding. So we were very busy, and we did a lot of walking around and Ubering around in DC to tell the LC story to our lawmakers. In addition to that, and this is the next slide, Patrick. I do want to make some comments about the recent executive orders coming out of the White House. A number of executive actions that potentially impact LCC were issued in late January, including the topics of immigration and diversity and inclusion. Now, I briefed the Academic Senate on our institutional response to these the Friday before we left, here in this room with the Academic Senate. But regarding immigration, LCC departments have been issued guidance on how to handle these issues, including potential visits to campus from ICE. And in summary, they're very technical, but in summary, persons claiming to be immigration officials when they come to campus should be referred to our campus police. Now, regarding the diversity and inclusion efforts, the executive branch has informed all colleges that it will enforce existing federal civil rights laws, including a recent Supreme Court decision in 2023, the Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard, which took place in 2023. And on that point, I want to take us all back to high school civics and think a little bit about American government. You'll remember from American government that the executive branch doesn't create laws. The legislature creates laws. The judiciary interprets those laws, and the executive branch enforces those laws. So after that January series of executive orders, we did on Friday, February 14, receive from the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights something we call a Dear Colleague letter. And the Dear Colleague letter informed us that in the future, the Department of Education will be assessing compliance with federal anti-discrimination requirements related to Title IV funding. And so that came around dinner time on Valentine's Day, and that's what I spent most of the weekend doing, was understanding that executive order, talking to colleagues. And I just want to let the trustees know, the public know, everybody at the college know that LCC is working internally with our legal counsel to understand and ensure compliance with all civil rights laws. And the college is well aware of its non-discrimination obligations under federal and state civil rights laws. Specifically, and this is directed at the board has a non-discrimination board policy 4.110, which prohibits discriminatory practice based on race and several other factors. These provisions apply to all faculty, all staff, students, visitors, contractors, and they have since 2002. Our board non-discrimination policy was most recently revisited and reaffirmed by the board as recently as last December. So as I believe the board is aware, I've been part of a national group of community college presidents studying and preparing for these issues for years. And my most important message to our entire college community is this. Our efforts to create an empowering, diverse academic culture at LCC are legal. We have yet to receive the guidance on compliance assessment from the Department of Education, but we will be working to ensure that we demonstrate that all LCC programs conform to federal civil rights laws and our non-discrimination obligations. And so that's an ongoing matter that I want to brief the board and the entire college community on. Now, finally, I would like to thank Dr. Tony Glasgow and Lane Ingram and all the trustees for representing LCC so well in our nation's capital. And I think the trustees got to see this. Many of my very closest friends and colleagues are community college leaders from across the country, and they always give me amazing feedback about this group. I tell the trustees at these meetings, LCC is kind of a big deal. And I appreciate that. I always get lots of great feedback about you all at these conferences. So we are respected and celebrated by lawmakers of both parties when we go to these meetings. And 2025 NLS was a great success for LCC. So the last matter, Chair Matthews, has to do with something I mentioned last month. I want to give you an update on the SMART team's recommendation on Livingston Center. As I reported last month, LCC offers courses in K-12 enrollment outside of the community college district. We have a legal taxable district, but we do have students outside of that district. And we were notified in the fall that our lease would not be renewed at a school building in Howell. So the SMART team, which is the space management review team, recommended to me that LCC not purchase or lease new property in Livingston County, but rather focus on K-12 partnerships in the same way we do for other out-of-district communities. And the member on that SMART team is Dr. Welch, CFO Wilski, Dr. Glasgow, Dr. McCursey, Tim Martz, Dr. Samuel. It's a very thoughtful and detailed recommendation, and I've accepted that recommendation. So I do want to point out to trustees that lease or purchase of a dedicated LCC facility outside of the taxable district would be very expensive, estimates between $1 million and $2.8 million, and would have significant ongoing operating costs. And it would require special board approval. It's not something we could just do. We'd have to come to you and get approval for. So our teams are working on ways to best serve students in Livingston County, as well as other communities outside of LCC's legal service district. And so finally, Chair Matthews and trustees, we do have a bunch of new employees. Do we have any of our newly hired employees at LCC with us? Could I ask, oh, I'm so happy to see so many of you. If you could stand up and feel honored to me if you could introduce yourself to the trustees. They really enjoy meeting our new colleagues. So if we could start on this side of the room and go this way. Welcome, welcome. Somebody's counting. Good. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, Krista. Welcome. I am delighted to hear that. Trustees, meet our new colleagues. Thank you all for braving the cold to be with us. Now, the chair and I make a joke about the new employees who attend. You are welcome to stay and learn about the wonderful things we do here, but you're also free to leave if you wanted to. Chair Matthew.
Leaving, please take those cookies back there. Please take the case. Please take the pop. Just take it all. Thank you so much and welcome to Lansing Community College. You're amongst family, so I hope you feel welcome. The other thing is, there's one other thing that I had to say, but I forgot. Again, take those cookies because we don't want to take them home, okay? All right. There is a question that I had. Oh, sorry. Trustee Proctor?
Thank you,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair. Dr. Robinson, with respect to Livingston County.
Yes.
Do you know whether Livingston County is partnering with any of the other community colleges in the area, such as Washtenaw or Mott?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Proctor. In terms of formal partnerships, I don't know of specific partnerships, but if you recall the map I put up there, most of Livingston County is in a very interesting geographical location between 3 community colleges, and it would be us, Washtenaw, and Mott. In fact, the travel distance to Howell is almost equal from here to Howell as it is from Ann Arbor to Howell. That factored greatly into the analysis and recommendation that was made to me. And this goes to something that you and I have talked about at great length, Trustee Proctor, is that there are pockets like the pocket I've here, and forgive my Sharpie, that's just my own little map. Thank you for pulling it up, Patrick. Those counties are technically outside of any community college district. There are large pockets of our state that are not in one of the 28 statutory community college districts, and the bulk of Livingston County is that way. So that's a long way of saying, not that I'm aware of, I don't think so.
Thank you.
I have a, Trustee LaBelle.
And this is just a point of education for me. So when we say focus on the K through 12 partnerships, could you just kind of explain that a little bit more and how that would look?
I'd be happy to. And I see that Dr. Glasgow's not with us, but she keeps me very updated on these activities. Most of our activities inside and outside of the district pivot on our relationships with local K-12 schools, but especially outside of the district. So for example, at West Campus, we do a lot of partnership with the Eaton RISA out there, and a good chunk of Eaton is outside of the community college district. So the way that we, oh, it's Dr. Glasgow on the, has she put her hand up? Because okay, she may think I'm doing okay. You can fact check me if I get it wrong, Dr. G. So outside of the community college district, Trustee Lavelle, we lean even more heavily on our relationships with the intermediate school districts, or the RESDs, and the local school district. Where we operated out of in Livingston County was a school building in Howell Public Schools. They notified us last year that they needed that space for something else. Yep.
I just want to stay right here for just a second, Dr. Robinson. So seeing that we've chosen not to renew the lease, or build, then I would imagine that those students who are used to going to a certain location, now that the location is moved, would transportation be a barrier? If transportation is a barrier, how are we going to help them to get to, their educational site?
It's an excellent question, Chair Matthews. And I did, after you and I spoke about that, I raised that with the team. Moving from one location to another in all of these locations is kind of a challenge. Our center was in Howell. We looked at other centers that would have been even farther away for students. We're currently talking with the Livingston School District, I think it's Lisa, and other entities about places that we might be able to partner with. And hopefully that would not involve transportation. Right now, like for example, over in Eaton, when you're at West Campus, you'll see yellow school buses. A lot of the intermediate school district or the RISAs will bring students to a central location. Is a little bit of a challenge in Livingston because the main campuses of Mott Community College and Washington and Oakland are kind of far away. So the team's aware of the transportation issue, and it'll depend on which school buildings we can work in.
Other questions? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Moving on to agenda item number 8, consent agenda items, action items. Colleagues, are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like removed? Okay, just for, following the Robert's Rules of Order, and the consent agenda item, I'm going to remove F. The sabbatical leave request, because we need to remain in compliance with that rule. So anytime that you are discussing or bringing an item up under the consent agenda, it must be in this arena and not outside of any other arena on our agenda. And so I just in case there are some additional questions, then we're going to remove that item. Are there any others that we'd like to remove? I'm also going to remove item number D, new course fee for automotive transmissions and driveline course. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda for items number A, B, C, E, with the exceptions to D and F?
So move.
Thank you, Trustee Lavelle. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Taylor. It has been moved by Trustee Lavelle and second by Trustee Taylor to approve the consent agenda for action items number A, B, C, and E. Are there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Benita, will you take the roll, please?
Robert Proctor,
Aye.
Chatham Taylor,
Aye.
Angela Matthews, Terrence Frazier,
Aye.
Hope LaBelle,
Aye.
Noel Garcia, LaShonda Thomas, motion carries.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda item number D, new course fee for automotive transmissions and drivelines course?
I so.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by trustee Proctor and second by Vice Chair Frazier that new course fee for automotive transmission and drivelines course be approved. Discussion. I remove this because the fee was waiving at us for, I think it's $777. And so would just like to know what is encompassed in this particular course fee.
If I could, Chair Matthews, and I believe the Associate Dean of the area is here. I'll give my best shot. Come on up if you could. Yeah, that'd be great. So the first comment to make about this particular course fee, trustees, is it was not included in the previous tranche of them that you approved last month. And I have a lot of good information about this very technical course, about what is built into this $777 course fee. And since I see Associate Dean Pipper is here, do you mind talking a little bit about where the fee comes from? There's a very thorough process for calculating these fees, and these are expensive courses. So Associate Dean Pipper.
Yeah, thank you. There were two courses, Automotive 125 and Automotive 126, that were combined to make this course Automotive 225. So they took a 6-credit course, another 6-credit course, and pared it down to a new 6-credit course. So in reality, there, in both of those, that Automotive 125 and 126, sorry, I'm throwing all these numbers at you. The total course fee for that was about $1,500 between those two courses. So by creating this new course, we've actually reduced the course fees. Automotive is just an expensive program all around, just with consumables. With this, there's also replacement and specialty tools that they need for this course. And also bundled in there too is the ASE certification fees. There's 2 exams that they need to take. And so there's course fees. There's fees for those certification exams as well.
If I could, Chair Matthews, that's an excellent answer. I also have all the breakouts because the team gave, they're considerable amounts. Those ASE certifications are $158, $34, $59. A lot of those consumables that add up to the $770 include things like transmission fluid, rear axle fluid, gaskets. It's an expensive, and I appreciate you highlighting that in aggregate, combining the course really is lowering the course fee to students.
Yeah, it's a savings.
And you said tool.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Please. No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Duncan, will you call the roll?
Terry Frazier,
Aye.
Hope Lavelle,
Aye.
Noel Garcia, Robert Proctor, Angela Matthews, Chatham Taylor,
Aye.
LaShonda Thomas, motion carried.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve sabbatical leave request, consent agenda item number F?
Madam Chair, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by trustee Proctor and seconded by trustee Lavelle to approve the sabbatical leave request. Discussion. There was an entryway of it, and so I wanted to pull it off the agenda just in case my colleagues have any other questions with regarding to the sabbatical leaves. Trustee Taylor, and then trustee Parker.
I just have a question. So in the past, when employees have taken sabbatical leave, have there ever been any issues with re-entering their positions when they come back? And also, how long do they have to have been employed here to take a sabbatical leave?
Thank you for that question, Trustee Taylor. I would just point out, you'll notice that Dr. Welch, our Chief Academic Officer, is not here. She is at the, she's online. Tell me how I do, Dr. Welch. She is in Philadelphia for the Achieving the Dream Conference. I'm getting on the plane tomorrow. I'll see you there. So the quick answer to your question, Trustee Taylor, is that it's every 6 years. So a full-time faculty member needs to have been employed 6 years to be eligible to apply. And no, there are not issues with returning to the position. The position is held. In essence, the other faculty members teach that faculty members load while they're doing the research on the sabbatical leave, and then they come back. How'd I do, Dr. Welch?
Thank you.
After the interesting results.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to the sabbatical leave request for, is it Danielle Savory? Am I pronouncing that name correctly? Okay. As I read through this, I don't see an itemization, and I shouldn't use the term itemization, an explanation of what this sabbatical request is to achieve. My note was to myself, what is she going to do or study and for what purpose? And I don't think that's explained in this explanation.
If I could,
Evening from Philadelphia.
yeah, thanks for.
It's warmer here. For Danielle's proposal, she's really doing a professional development model study. So she's looking at different faculty development models, and then she's going to figure out what are the best practices that we could bring back to LCC. She's going to make recommendations for child development program, which she is part of, and the Center for Teaching Excellence. She's also creating an annotated bibliography of effective professional development models for faculty, and then a summary of each educational center that she visited. I know that's not in the proposal that you're seeing. That's a really short summary. It's like an executive summary in those packets. Their proposal has a 2 or 3 page application. They also write a 1-page proposal of it, and then there's some other scoring that goes with it. So we tried to shorten the packet a little bit to make it easier for the board instead of having a long packet. So I understand and appreciate your question.
Trustee Lavelle.
Thank you. So just to kind of piggyback from that, my question around the sabbatical is the projects that they do, can that lead to additional funding opportunities for LCC?
Depending on the project, it can. Elizabeth Clifford is looking at to see what educational needs are in some of the homeless areas, shelters. And based on that information, we may go out and look for some funding that could provide support for those particular students coming to LCC. So it's a maybe answer.
No further questions? Ms. Duncan, would you call the roll? LaShonda Thomas, Noel Garcia, Chatham Taylor, Hope Lavelle,
Aye.
Terrence Frazier,
Aye.
Robert Proctor,
Aye.
Angela Matthews, motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, monthly monitoring report. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Chair Matthews. The monthly monitoring reports are in your packet for review, and the first one is listed as the 2-year financial forecast, and the CFO is here to answer any questions you might have. Or make some comments about it. Thank you, Peter.
Good evening, Chair Matthews, trustees, Dr. Robinson. The board calendar requires in February, you get a 2-year financial forecast for the college. And this is about probably the 8th, 9th year that we've been doing that. And every year is a little different. And this one is probably a little more different than most have been. Our former board chair, Ryan Buck, used to refer to this as a crystal ball presentation. And right now, I think our crystal ball is a little hazy than it has been in the past, due to a variety of reasons, some of which have already been discussed, the current economic situation, and also both the state and national political situation. So we do this to give the board an idea as we develop our budget for the next fiscal year in particular, which we just started on the end of last month, to give you an idea of just a very high-level perspective on how things are looking at this point in time. Some people think budgeting is just a one-time event. And Dr. Robinson refers to this as our financial monopoly board, because the whole process of financial planning, reporting, auditing goes on 12 months a year. It never stops. And given the fact that we're currently in fiscal year 25, we're already talking about fiscal year 26, and to a certain extent, even fiscal year 27. And so it's an ongoing process for everybody at the college, but in particular, my staff and myself are deeply involved in that all year long. So for fiscal year 2026, we are projecting a balanced forecast of about $145 million in total. And for 27, at this point in time, a $1.3 million deficit, 148 million in revenues and 149 million in expenses. We'll go into a little more detail into this, where these numbers come from. For next fiscal year, at this point in time, we are projecting a 2.4% increase in state appropriations. That is comparable to what it has been the last few years. It's comprised of what the governor presented in her budget recommendation several weeks ago. And then there are 3 other state appropriations we get: Renaissance Zone funding, MIPSERS funding, and also replacement tax funding. Those are not a formula driven that we see in advance. We always are basically playing catch up to see what's going on with those. So we always have to make those estimates based upon past trend. Property taxes, that says 4.4%. That's comprised of a 6% estimated increase in taxable values, however, with a 5% uncollectible amount. There has been a small rise in uncollectible property taxes in the last several years. As far as enrollment is concerned, basically, we're assuming it will be flat for where this year is. Not where this year's budget was, but the fact that fall was a little over 6% higher than budget, and right now we're about 7.1% higher than budget for the spring semester. And so we're projecting to stay at that level. We feel it's a little premature, at least at this point, to project increases. And we really never like to project decreases because it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we don't want to think that way, basically. As already discussed, course fees were approved last month with the one little addition tonight. Basically, we're looking at that as being budget neutral because it depends upon the course mix that students are taking. And that changes from year to year. So it's very difficult to really attach a dollar to it specifically. We are looking at next year with no increase in district or any other tuition rates. When the board approved the current year budget, we allocated an amount of $800,000 from this year's budget to hold for next year to allow us not to increase tuition. And so we're continuing with that plan. All of these things combined represents a 3.7% increase. If you look at fiscal year 27, you can see the percentages. They are conservative at this point in time. As we get better information, we will always adjust these. But at this point, those are our best estimates as far as revenues are concerned. And then these are the amounts that are generated by all of those assumptions. So you can see state appropriations for 26, 40.6 billion, property tax was 58.6, tuition and fees, 40.5 million, and other revenues, 5.3 million. Other revenues, in particular, because of the current economic situation, is difficult because a big component of that is our investment income in terms of our CDs, et cetera. And therefore, with what's been going on with the Federal Reserve System, what we're hearing about inflation, it is difficult to project even for next year and then even more so the year beyond. So we're kind of leaving that at a relatively flat level. As far as salaries and benefits are concerned, you see for fiscal year 26, a 3.9% increase. That's based upon everything we know that's basically fact, our current collective bargaining agreements. We have 2 collective bargaining agreements that are currently under negotiation. We have made estimates for that. The other piece of it that's probably more difficult this year is what's going on at the state level with the reform for the MIPSR, the Michigan Public School Employees Retirement System. We are estimating from the last 9 months of fiscal year 26, because the state makes their changes October 1st. Our budget goes into effect July 1st. So we are estimating, based upon the information we have right now, that for fiscal year 26, there will be approximately $1 million less contributions by the college into the retirement system. They've made some other changes in terms of which plan is the default plan recently, and it's made those estimates a little more difficult to get. Then we have the category of services and supplies. 3.3% is, you might think, a little low at this point in time, but part of the fact is that we have certain expenses that we have this year that we know we're not going to have next year. Best example is the fact that once the project is completed for the capital area airport, we will no longer have the lease for that property. And so we're not budgeting for that next fiscal year. But we are concerned about inflation. And so we have added, at this point in time, some inflation factors to services and supplies to make sure that we are able to get some of the things that are necessary, especially in the instructional areas. Scholarships, grant match, transfer, debt service, and contingency, relatively nominal increase, 3.4%. Our contingency is always 1% of budgeted revenues. That's to account for all those things that we have no idea what they're going to be, quite frankly. We're also putting a little additional money into institutional scholarships for next year as an enrollment management strategy. Grant match and transfers are relatively consistent. Part of the transfers is to be able to start to set aside funds to implement the campus master plan that was approved by the board. That was a 10-year plan, and it's going to take some time for us to be able to do that. The college is not in a position right now to have any new debt service requirements, and so we're trying to, the greatest extent possible, begin to self-fund the campus master plan. Eventually, due to the magnitude of that campus master plan, down the road, there probably will be some debt financing necessary by the college. So again, in total, 3.7% total increase, which matches the increase in revenues for a balanced forecast. And then again for 27, based on everything that we know, we end up with 3.4% on salaries and benefits, 4% for services and supply, a very small increase in the other category. So we end up with a 0.9% deficit at this point in time for 27. It's very early, obviously, in that process, but it is good for the college to take a look out into the future. At one point in time, we tried to do a 3-year forecast, and everybody got a little shaky when it got to that 3rd year because it was just so far out in advance, especially because things keep changing so quickly. So again, for 26, we see salaries and benefits about $97.8 million. Services and supplies, 26.7. scholarships, et cetera, at 20.5 for a total of 145 million. We are projecting for 27 that we would, at this point in time, we would break the $100 million mark in terms of salaries and benefits. Almost $28 million in services and supplies, and a comparable $20.5 million budget for scholarships, grant matching, et cetera. So at this point, that's the best information that we have. And we use this basically as a framework for the more detailed budget process that we're just beginning for next fiscal year. That process, as I said, started late in January, and we will be coming to the board sometime in May with a board workshop to give you more detailed information on what the budget's going to, we think the budget's going to look like. And then, of course, in June, we'll be requesting the board to approve the budget for the new fiscal year. We don't have the luxury like our friends in DC have, where they can just have continuing resolution and kick the can down the road. We can't do that. We have to have a budget in place by July 1st. It's a legal requirement. So be happy to respond to any questions, comments that you might have.
Naturally, this is a little bit of my wheelhouse. Thank you, Chair Matthews. Just for information purposes, I know you mentioned a little bit about the Capital Airport lease with the forecast. And I'm looking at Exhibit E for the capital projects. So there's 6 uncommitted, okay, capital projects. So can you kind of help us understand where they stand right now? I've been working on a big project, and I understand that these can take some time. And some of these have estimated completion dates of like the West Campus Cybersecurity Center, June 2025, the Gannon Transfer Center, December 2025. But then that one is actually currently out for bid. So just, I guess, just a briefing of where they stand, and then how does this correlate with the forecast if it's included in there?
The board approves as a capital project anything that is $500,000 or more. So when we go to the board for approval for a capital project, that's the minimum threshold. Most of the capital projects are much higher than that. That sets the whole process in motion, basically. Our friends at Administrative Services have a lot of things going on at one particular time. And so not all projects move ahead at the same rate. Some are slower, some are faster than others. But when you look at the financial statements and say there's, that there's an amount uncommitted, that means that the project is primarily it's in the planning stage. RFPs may be out, but bids have not been awarded yet. So one of those projects you may see this month having uncommitted of X amount, next month it may be less than that because they have gone through a bidding process and awarded contracts for the project. So yeah, those projects have been approved by the board and they are, from our standpoint, fully funded.
Thank you.
It's more speculative, Mr. Wilski, but what do you expect the impact of the state tuition dollars to be on our budget? Or it's just so much jello you can't get a feel for?
It's not even jello that's set yet, I would think, quite frankly, if you use that analogy. Yeah, it's a little difficult at this point in time to make an assessment of that. We do know that it's what they're talking about is positive, of course, but it's, I guess, from my perspective, too premature to really make any kind of estimate of what the impact is going to be. Maybe from your meetings with MCCA, you're getting probably some better legislative information than I'm getting at this point in time. You may have a better idea than I do.
If I find out, I'll let you know.
Okay. That's fair. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, CFO Wilski. If I could add on to his last answer, Chair Matthews, as we wind down the the financial forecast. Don mentioned the Monopoly Board, and he mentioned the budget workshop. That is one of the squares that goes around the Monopoly Board that happens all year. So new trustees, there is a specific part of the journey around the Monopoly Board that involves board input, and you'll look forward to that. And on that last question, Trustee Proctor, one of the things that Don and I meet about regularly as he's doing this yearly annual budgeting work with his team and the whole college that has input is what he said about tuition forecasting. I think your question was about what impact would the Community College Guarantee State program have on enrollment. We asked the same question about Futures for Frontliners and Michigan Reconnect. We've had a very positive enrollment year, 6.3% and north of 7% this year. And my colleague, Dr. Fall, can tell you it is exceedingly difficult to ascribe that increase to any one particular activity. My personal view is that it's a synergy of a bunch of activities. The Community College Guarantee probably helps a great deal. I imagine because it's a national trend, that the drivers are larger than that, probably having to do with the state of the economy. We've always seen this inverse relationship between unemployment and community college enrollment. But thank you. That was an excellent presentation, Don, and thank you. Oh, and next one, okay. And I gave that presentation the intro I usually give for this, which is the monthly financial forecasts are in your packet, and Don is able to answer questions. Of course, he gave a great presentation for the forecast, but this is the monthly set of financials you see every month, and if you have questions, Don's here to answer them. Thank you, Chair Matthews. Seeing none. The item C is the monthly police department report. I always take this opportunity to say this is a case study in excellence and transparency in policing. The activities of Chief Gaines and his colleagues' citizen contact report are tabulated into a report that you see every month. And he's here to answer any questions you might have about that. Outstanding. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Department. Oh, I see. Very good.
Just an aside, I almost made that right turn on.
We're all getting used to these new rules on two-way streets. Gee. Those are the monthly monitoring reports, Chair Matthews and trustees.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robinson, Don, and everyone who's worked on these reports. The next agenda item number 10 is policy development. Dr. Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is what I'm going to call our proposed roadmap for the year for the board's activities. It is flexible. So like lots of travel plans, there may be a few detours here and there, but this is the calendar for going forward for 2025. And prepared to answer any questions.
So tomorrow, can you talk a little bit about the Malcolm X Symposium?
For tomorrow?
Am I looking at the right form?
No, the planning calendar is in the packet.
Oh, I'm looking at
That other, that's our social calendar that you're looking at.
apology, I'm looking at the wrong planning calendar.
A lot of calendar.
It starts on page 77.
So I do have a question, Dr. Proctor, and I think this is just, I'm gonna err on the side of grace to say that this is listed in here so we know where we're going. Because we've already approved a 3-year strategic plan. We had those conversations last year, and then the 10-year campus master plan. So there's March for the strategic plan, and then there's April for the first read of the 10-year campus master plan, and then May for the approval of the 10-year campus master plan. Because we did those plans and approved that it's January, a little bit back, in 2024. So is that correct? here just to guide us. Are we still going to be looking at approval of a 3-year strategic plan come March?
Put it this way, the strategic plan, some other things have been acted on and put in place. What we expect is to get reports on where we are periodically with respect to those plans. So this calendar, this roadmap is to set markers for when we would do that.
Right, thank you. Any other questions, Dusty?
We need to make a motion to approve this planning calendar.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Benita. So is there a motion to approve the annual board planning cycle calendar?
Here I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by trustee Proctor and second by Vice Chair Frazier that we approve the annual board planning cycle, the calendar. Any discussions? Hearing none. Ms. Benita, call the roll.
Hope Lavelle,
Aye.
Angela Matthews, Terrence Frazier,
Aye.
Noel Garcia, Robert Proctor,
Aye.
Shonda Thomas, Chatham Taylor. Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to linkage planning and implementation, the college linkage. A lot of linkage words. The chair's report, the update on ACCT NLS. I'm not going to speak long on this because I know that my colleagues would like to speak on this when we get to board comment. So I'll just say it was a great showing of our support, our advocacy. We met with our representatives, Congresswoman Slotkins, as well as Congressman Gary Peters. Things are the way that they are in Washington, but we do have great advocacy and we do have people who are working across the aisles and working together. And so I'll just leave that like that because again, I know my colleagues may want to have some words about that. Also, I'm going to move down to the new committee appointments. So last month, the appointments came with the audit committee. I'll just restate that. Trustee Proctor is chair of the audit committee. Trustee LaShonda Thomas and Trustee Hope Lavelle are members of that committee. I'm going to move down to the policy committee. I would like to appoint, if he will take it, Trustee Robert Proctor as chair of the policy committee, and then Trustee Taylor as a joining member along with board liaison Benita Duncan. I don't understand.
I accept.
Okay,
I accept.
thank you.
I
Moving
got
on.
the sheriff with me.
So moving on to LCC Foundation Board of Directors, Vice Chair Terry Frazier has been appointed, as well as Trustee Noel Garcia. Noel Garcia did contact me to say, yes, he will serve on that board.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Thank you. That's a good board. Moving on to Michigan Community College Association Board of Directors. Trustee Robert Proctor currently serves on that board here until July 1st, 2025. Angela Matthews will be the alternate for the MCCA. Moving on to local development authorities. For Mason, we have Trustee Hope Lavelle to be appointed to that particular board.
I accept.
Thank you so much. Dr. Robinson, if you would appoint an ELT member for Leslie.
I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, and then I will continue to serve on the Grand Ledge Local Development Authorities. Those are the committee board appointments. Moving down to board member report for the foundation board report, Trustee LaShonda Thomas is not here, so I will step in her stead. And then next month, Trustee Vice Chair Frazier and Garcia will definitely begin their board appointments after the completion of our meeting tonight. So with that, the LCC Foundation received $105 planned gift last month. Woo woo for the money, since people are seeing the want to pull it back.
Chair Matthews, you left off the 1,000.
Oh, did I live out the thousands?
I mean, every dollar counts,
Oh,
but
what did I say? $105? What are you gonna do with $105? Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so 100, stand corrected, and $105,000 planned gift for last month, and that will go into the Laura Bell Coons Lockhart Endowment Memorial Scholarship and to be used for scholarship to those students with a 2.0 grade point average and who demonstrate financial need. She said, shameless plug. If you like to include the LCC Foundation in your estate planning, then please reach out to Kathy or utilize your partner website, freewill.com. Shameless plug. The foundation received 930 scholarship applications for this year. That's good. The foundation received 930 scholarship applications for this year. That means students want to come to school. That's what that means. If you were a reviewer, thank you so much. And if there's a reminder that the reviews are due February 29th. The application for LCC Distinguished Alumni is now open and it closes on Sunday, March the 2nd. You can nominate someone by going to lcc.edu/alumni. And they currently have 4 nominees. How did I do, Kathy? I'm not LaShonda. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to unfinished business, seeing none. New business, seeing none. Moving on to public comment. Here you have 3 minutes to address the board with something, with a thought or opinion of your choice. Do we have anyone signed up, Ms. Duncan?
Yes, one person signed up. Oh, okay, Andrea.
Okay, and then Patrick, anyone online? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Hoagland. I'm the Dean of Arts and Sciences here. And normally Melissa Kaplan would give you this update. It's to tell you about some of our events on campus coming up, but she provided it to me today and I'm happy to do this. So thank you. Crime and Punishment opens Friday, February 21st in the Black Box at 7 p.m. This is a taught and award-winning adaptation that takes Dostoevsky's classic and distills it into 90 minutes of exciting drama. Where LCC is hosting Marilyn Campbell, one of the playwrights who adapted Crime and Punishment, as a visiting guest artist on campus this week. She'll be conducting talks and workshops with students from theater, humanities, and English on Wednesday and Thursday. And then she'll be there at the performance on opening night doing a talkback session after the play. LCC's Historians at the Movies presents its second event of the season on Webex. Wednesday, February 19th at 6:30. It's going to be an episode of the classic 1960s Star Trek series titled Let This Be Your Last Battlefield. The episode explores the destructiveness of prejudice and intolerance, and it is as timely today as it was over 50 years ago. Next month, the group will be presenting a film in person, Radium Girls, with the director joining for a WebEx talk after the viewing for that one. And then Melissa also wanted me to talk about the Malcolm X Symposium because she's involved in that as well. And so our annual symposium is taking place tomorrow, February 18th in the Michigan Room. We begin with light refreshments at 5, and then the program is from 5:30 to 7:30. This year's national theme is African Americans and labor, and the event will feature a panel discussion about labor, student poetry presentations, and the Ku'ugana African Drum and Dance Studio, and the LCC Jazz Combo with singer Anna Marie Horn. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Excuse me.
Seeing there are no additional public comments, we move down to board comments. Any board comments? Trustee Proctor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a little tardy and we may have missed an opportunity. When Dr. Robinson came to us, began his tenure as president of LCC, we should have commemorated that as the new boss in town. He knows about what I'm speaking. A former institution that I attended got a new chancellor. On the cover of the magazine was a picture of the new chancellor with his guitar. they named it New Boston Town. We should have done that for Dr. Robinson. Maybe we can pick that up. But on a more serious note, there's a few of us sat around drinking water in the hotel in DC. Comment was made about the 28 public institutions that form the Michigan Community College Association, along with 3 tribal colleges. There are 31 presidents of those institutions. A member of that president's cadre in the MCCA was asked about taking a position on a matter. And as I was informed, he said, "What's Steve's position?" And whatever Steve wants to do, I'm going to go with him because he's the smartest president we have in this group.
Nice.
That's it. You want me to say more?
No, no. Vice Chair.
I was moved by it. Yeah, the president, I think it caught him by surprise, particularly coming from the person to whom it was attributed. But I thought that spoke a lot about our president and about the choice the board made in its hiring. Thank you.
Vice Chair Frazier.
First, I'd like to welcome our 2 newest trustees to the board at their first meeting officially. So we give them a round of applause for making. It's been an honor getting to know everyone and learning so much more in Washington, D.C. That we have a great board up here, a board that's ready to work, and even an administration that's ready to work for you. As I've had conversations with President Robinson about things happening in DC and the executive orders, I have the utmost confidence that LCC will continue to do the right thing, even when others aren't. So I want to just say that and say to all of the faculty and staff out there, thank you for all you do for us.
DC was everything. There was a lot of good information, and if I repeated everything I learned, we'd be back in DC, so I'm not going to do that. But one of my key takeaways from the top 2025 legislative priorities was it hit home for me, and this one was strengthening the Pell Grant program by extending grant programs and also preserving funding for programs. Number one, the ones that address TRIO, okay. My background working here at LCC for so many years, at the overseeing the credit union in Gannon building, I was able to hear students talk about just what they need. You know, the fact of the matter is they want accelerated programs. They want to get in and get out. And so it felt good to hear Dr. Tony Glasgow, Chair Matthews, also Dr. Robinson advocate for those things, because that's what we were there for. And they did a phenomenal job. And so Senator Alyssa Slotkin and Peters, they both spoke on this very thing, the Pell Grants. Not only the taxation of the Pell Grants, but also the accelerated programs. And so that's near and dear to me, just because I used to hear it all the time. The days are changing. You know, one thing that they said there was associate degrees are outweighing bachelor degrees. And so I'm like, yeah, you know, because that's just who we are. But it was just a great trip all the way around. I enjoyed my colleagues as well and getting to know them even more. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, I would say I truly enjoyed the wonderful experience that we had learning and meeting with our legislators, having an opportunity to speak with our colleagues, other trustees from around the country, And one of the things, my biggest takeaway was that even though it seems as if higher education is under attack right now, community colleges are special. In fact, we are the darlings of higher education because we are about preparing the workforce of tomorrow. And so even when we talked about things around risk sharing and, could there be the possibility that if they wanted to look at our outcomes and would there be a possibility that as a community college, we would need to pay money back? It gave me peace to hear some feedback to say that, well, community colleges are doing great relatively. So I say this all to say, keep up the good work. Let's continue to fight the good fight. And though it's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of noise that is happening right now, especially out of Washington, let's not get confused. Let's just kind of, continue to keep our eye on the ball and doing the good work because bipartisan, both Republicans and Democrats, they see it. They see it. So thank you.
Well, I will concur and agree with all of my colleagues. And it was a great gathering of trustees from all across. ACCT had nearly 1,400 trustees in attendance, which was their largest, and they had about 149 students who attended NLS. And everyone's learning, everyone is pretty much on the same level as to what's going on, just a few differences. But I will agree with all of what my colleagues said. Something that Congresswoman Alyssa Slockins just stuck with me, a few things. She said, out of all of this cutting that's planning, whatever they're planning, about 13% is all that is cut from the federal government. She also said that don't over-index or overcorrect the order about DEI. As it rolls down, as it rolls out, we will know some guidelines. There are those who are panicking and possibly jumping before knowing. However, I'm confident that we will be prepared for either which way we need to go, because that's what LCC does. We forecast and we plan for the future. And I've been here going on 9 years, and I have never known LCC not to be ahead of the curve, and trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? And then she also says that they were just trying to maintain a lot of the monies or overages that community colleges or even others were saying. She said, maintain what you have, because we don't know what they're doing on the way up in Washington in that particular seat. And so we're doing a great job with that. And then she also says, tell your stories. Tell your stories about how community college has impacted you. There are some presidents who pathway was through a community college, but how would your congressmen and women know if you don't tell your story? So she was saying, tell your stories, and keep in mind, if we had to drill down to the absolute bare bones and basics, what are the 3 things that are important to Lansing Community College? Be prepared to answer that. What is that? What is it, those 3 things? And so I thought that was very encouraging. And then the last thing is that LCC's name was the only name that was called out when she was delivering her presentation in front of all of these other community colleges. I thought that was pretty special. Alyssa Slockins, Congresswoman Alyssa Slockins, Gary Peters loves this college and holds it up in high esteem. And so you should give yourselves a hand, because you're the ones that's doing the work. All right, with that,
Madam Chair,
yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, may I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to thank the board for allowing me to travel with you all to ACCT Leadership Congress, allowing me to be a part of the Professional Board Staff Network. And I say that because that professional development has allowed me to learn a lot of innovative things and bring those things back here because I am determined to leave a legacy here while I'm here. And one of those things that I picked up was policy management software. All of you may not know, for years, I've been managing all the policies manually by hand, which is a lot of work. We have 86 policies, 100 in all. Those are the policies that are retired. I keep track of all the retired policies, all the reiteration of those. And so myself, Ben Trail Carroll and Penny Tucker, they are responsible for all of the standard operating procedures that implement those policies. So I just sent them a note telling them that that policy management software was approved. We are thrilled because it's going to really make our jobs easy. I know I sound kind of like a nerd, but I'm just excited about it. So I just wanted to thank you for approving that tonight.
Policies by hand and what the policy committee does, it is greatly appreciated. Before we segue and get out of here, the delicious treats in the back, again, take those treats, take those drinks, was, what I want to say, delivered, made, and all of that good things by an African-American company. And it's called Gourmet Treats, Cheryl Gourmet Treats. And so we thank Cheryl for these delicious treats that she has left, as well as the beverages that are back there. So with that, is there any other comment? No? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Unless you want to stay here all night.
Oh, move. I motion we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
By trustee Lavelle, supported by vice chair Frazier, for that we move into adjournment. Any discussion? Hearing none, all say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. You adjourn. Thank you. I'm so excited. I said I'm so excited.